happening tonight. Formula E is heading to South Africa for the Cape Town E-Prix. Can Pascal Wehrlein continue his early season dominance and continue pulling away from his competitors? NASCAR officially unveiled its Garage 56 project for the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Does the special NASCAR entry violate the spirit of Garage 56 without a unique technology being put on display? The Repco Supercars Championship are putting the finishing touches on its off-season testing program before the debut of the Gen 3 car. Should there be concerns over Ford appearing to step behind Chevrolet? Hello to all our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambert from the Podium Finish, and with me is Joshua Birch and Matt White from the Grid Endurance Performance Index. We encourage everyone to comment in the chat below and ask any questions. Now, here's Josh with our top story this evening.
Thank you, Kobe. Thank you, Matt. For the third consecutive Formula E race weekend, we're previewing the race on Grid Tonight, with the race scheduled to take place on the morning of our Grid Live pre-race show. Now, for the fifth race of the year, Formula E heads to another new venue, the Cape Town E-Prix in South Africa. Jean-Eric Vergne is looking at making it two in a row and trying to enter the championship picture despite being at a big disadvantage for now. So far, Pascal Wehrlein and Jake Dennis have separated themselves at the top, while Vergne is third in the championship. Dennis was the only driver in the top three not to score points in the Hyderabad E-Prix. After four races so far, Vergne has only scored in two of them, while Wehrlein has scored in every race, with fourth place being his worst finish. Mitch Evans scored in the first three races, including 3 points for winning the pole in the last round. But Evans didn't score points in the race, as he was taken out by a mistake from his Jaguar teammate Sam Bird. Photo courtesy there of Formula E Digital Media. Now, Kobe, Matt, if Wehrlein gets another win, podium or points finish in South Africa, should his advantage at the top of the championship allow him to shift to a more conservative strategy of points racing?
Well, Josh, to answer your question, I think if Wehrlein gets that win, podium or another points finish and has Jake Dennis have a really bad day in South Africa, then I think that Wehrlein can really start looking towards the strategy of points racing. It's been incredible seeing what he's been able to do so far to start the season. You couldn't ask for a better start to the 2023 Formula E World Championship season. His worst finish been fourth after four races. Really crazy consistency that we have been talking about. The Porsche powertrain been very strong, and Wehrlein's a really great driver. It really seems like, although it's still very early on in the season, the momentum is definitely in his favor, and if he continues doing what he's been doing, then I think Wehrlein could run the table here, and get to the point where he can start focus on points racing. And if he doesn't have like a fifth place car, he can take care of it, and just try to finish on the back end of the points, to keep building his championship lead. And if Wehrlein has a bad day, Jake Dennis has a good day, he could potentially leave South Africa as the points leader. He's the only driver who can really do that right now. So the competition needs Wehrlein to have a bad day, but I think if he continues doing what he's been doing to start this year, Wehrlein is going to be very hard to beat in 2020.
Well, I mean, halfway through that race in Hyderabad a couple of weeks ago, Dennis was in prime position before we had a technical issue, and Pascal Wehrlein was mired back towards the back end of the top 10, and it all changed around in the second half and obviously gave Pascal some more points advantage. Porsche have been strong so far. We can see that with 3 victories from Porsche powertrains from the first 4 races. I don't think you can be conservative in Formula E for the myriad of madness that we would get on street tracks and all kinds of oddball things that happen in Formula E. We've seen that down the years, and safety cars, and at least we haven't got the lottery of car swapping and pit stops and that kind of thing to deal with anymore. But if Pascal can keep his nose clean and keep picking up the points, as long as he's doing that without someone else winning every week, like a Jake Dennis or Jean-Eric Vergne potentially, to get themselves back in the championship contention, if he can keep in those, 4th through 7th positions every week, then he's got every reason why he can't go on and pick his way through the points to get to the championship at the end of the season.
Yeah, and Pascal Wehrlein has an 18-point lead over Dennis in the championship, entering the Cape Town E-Prix. So Dennis is the only driver who can become the new championship points leader after this race, assuming that Wehrlein finishes 6th or worse, and that's depending on bonus points for pole position and fastest lap. Defending Formula E World Champion Stoffel van Dorn's season hasn't got off to a positive start, only scoring 5 points after 4 races. His best finish was 8th in the Hyderabad E-Prix. And Joe Samiega, they're saying, crazy to think that depending on South Africa, we could see points racing in Formula E. Amazing consistency so far. Can he keep it up? Well, that's actually a quick question I'll throw before I throw in the Van Dorn question. Don't know which one of you wants to take that. Is it possible for Wehrlein to keep this consistency running as well for the next couple of races so he has that advantage? I think personally, yes, because Porsche's got such a dominant powertrain.
Yeah, definitely, Josh. I agree with you. I think Pascal Wehrlein is definitely in the prime position. It is, like I just said, you have a good driver. I don't see why Pascal Wehrlein cannot continue this consistency. But Matt brought up a really good point in his answer to a previous question. About Formula E, it's still very unpredictable. We see a lot of crazy things. It wasn't until all things went, we saw the mayhem in India, before Pascal Wehrlein was able to capitalize. And if it wasn't for the mayhem, there's probably a chance that Wehrlein doesn't get the good finish that we saw. So it's still very early on in the season. Even if Wehrlein goes there, has a great point state, Dennis struggles and continues to build his lead, it's still not time to crown Wehrlein as the champion.
And Matt, I'll come to you with the question leading back to Van Dorn as well. As we said, he hasn't got off to the best start as well, only scoring 5 points after 4 races. Best finish was 8th in Hyderabad. Does Van Dorn need a massive turnaround performance this weekend to keep the hopes of defending his title alive?
Yeah, I mean, we know how good that team are. And obviously the bounce back with Jev's victory last time out. So maybe, there was a lot of talk over the Christmas period and pre-season how, could be a super team now, the 2 former champions in there, and we could really see them, if they get on a roll, march away with the championship potentially. It hasn't been the greatest of starts for Stoffel, but I kind of, from memory, maybe felt like he didn't kick off last season particularly well. Josh, you'll probably have a better memory of it than I have, but we're only, 4 races down? We've still got plenty of time to go, and with Jev getting that win last time out, maybe that can be the kick that Stoffel needed to go, oh, hang on a minute, we have got a good car here. And we know how, back to the randomness of Formula E, how big qualifying can be, even with this newer format. You've still got to make it count all the way through, and if you're not up the front, that kind of ruins your day.
Yeah, definitely. And we know Stoffel van Dorn has a great car and a great team on there. I mean, it's just a matter, of putting all the pieces together. And sometimes when you see some drivers go to new teams, it takes a minute for everything to click. And I have a feeling that's the issue going on right now with Stoffel van Dorn and his new organization. I think they just need a little bit of time, to build the chemistry, get their acts together. And sooner or later, I think we're going to see Stoffel van Dorn, doing the same things we've been seeing his teammate Jean-Eric Vergne doing. So Van Dorn can definitely turn his season around, and having it happen in the Cape Town E-Prix, I think it would be really, really important to do it sooner rather than later, because as more races go by, you start running out of time.
Yeah, and it is crazy to think that as we get to the end of February, we're 1/4 of the way through the 16-race calendar season. Starting with the Cape Town E-Prix, we'll be halfway after the next 4 races. So after South Africa, we have the Sao Paulo E-Prix, then a double header in Berlin as well. And once this race weekend concludes, Formula E has an entire month off before going to Brazil in Sao Paulo. Kobe, starting with you for this. For teams and drivers who haven't won yet this season, how big would a win be, or even a podium, to build positive momentum heading to Brazil and then to Germany?
Oh yeah, I think it would be really important for those teams to to win and build some positive momentum into this month-long break, because Formula E calendar, it feels quite different this year. They're gonna be traveling here, there, anywhere. Every couple of weeks or so. And then you get this 1 month break to decompress. Continue to develop the car, your program, chemistry within the team, and then try to come back in Brazil and see how much you've improved in that 1 month off. I think it would really for them to be able to do that. And looking at some of the teams that have really caught my eye: Sebastian Buemi, Nick Cassidy, Envision. I think keep an eye out. They performed extremely well so far at the start of the 2023 season, and I think they're just of getting at the top of the podium in Formula E.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? We're looking forward to this weekend. Looks like a great track in Cape Town. And then obviously we've got, as Josh mentioned there, the big sort of reset with this full early portion of the season over. Everyone can go back to base. I know a lot of teams need to get back to base and have some time to get more time with these new cars and powertrains and everything else. So going to be interesting. Yeah, I mean, could McLaren pop up potentially? We've seen their potential so far with Jake Hughes doing so well, especially in qualifying. His race pace hasn't been there, and he's been caught up in a couple of incidents and things. But yeah, looking forward to this one. And then Brazil, and again, as I say, in about a month's time, another new track. So there'll be 3 brand new circuits on the spin before we obviously go back to Tempelhof, which the teams know extremely well. So another new track and a new winner over the next couple of races could really throw a spanner into the works of the championship.
Time for everyone's favourite game then. Pick a winner. And as you can see, Ed's leading, my commentary partner on Formula E. Damn him. Hopefully he'll be picking well this weekend as well. We've got Alex on 2 as well, but Ed is very clear ahead on 5. But let's see. Nobody, I don't think, got the 500 right at Daytona, which was a bit disappointing. I don't think anybody, as Matt, you would understand as well, could have predicted that ending. But Matt, I'll ask you first then. Who's your pick a winner for the Cape Town E-Prix?
I'm going to go with someone that Kobe just mentioned in his previous answer. I think Nick Cassidy could pop up and get a win at the weekend. That'd be a good little fillip for Envision, as Kobe mentioned, have been pretty strong so far. And Nick was going really well in Hyderabad and probably should have won that race as he had so much more energy at the end, but couldn't really use it against Jeb. So yeah, Nick Cassidy for me for pick a winner for the weekend for Cape Town.
Yeah, Nick Cassidy is definitely a great pick. Has a lot of momentum coming off of the Hyderabad E-Prix. Envision is looking really strong, but I'm going to go with the driver who's been running the show so far. I think Porsche's Pascal Wehrlein is going to get another win. Joe Samaniego agrees. He think he'll go with Pascal to get the job done as well.
I'm going to go with Jake Dennis. I'll go safe with another powertrain, bouncing back after a poor result in Hyderabad after such a strong start to the year. I think he'll get the win to tie off the first 5 races. Okay, moving on to our second story of the weekend now as well. And it was during the Daytona 500 race weekend that NASCAR officially unveiled its Garage 56 Chevrolet Camaro for this year's 24 Hours of Le Mans. As we discussed on previous episodes of Grid Tonight, Hendrick Motorsports will be fielding this car with Jimmy Johnson, Mike Rockenfeller and Jenson Button behind the wheel. However, as you can see on the graphic here provided by NASCAR G56, there are some noticeable differences between the traditional next-gen stock car and the car that Hendrick will take to Le Mans. For starters, the G56 entry has headlights, while your traditional stock car doesn't. G56 will also have dive planes on the front that you typically see in sports car racing, as they're just great images side by side. G56 has also a 6-inch spoiler, a little bit taller than the 4-inch spoiler on the next-gen car. And at the rear of the G56, rear canards as well have been added. The fuel cell on the G56 is larger and capable of holding 32 gallons of fuel. That's the total Exilium Racing 100, while the next-gen only holds 20 gallons, and that's the Sunoco Green E15. G56 is also lighter than the next gen at £2,960 compared to the £3,485 on the normal next gen car. And some of the biggest criticism of this project is the lack of new technology typically required for an ACO Garage 56 invite. Is this criticism justified, or should it be ignored since a NASCAR stock car at Le Mans is such a big deal? I'll start with you, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, it is a massive deal, isn't it? And we know, obviously, it's NASCAR 75, and we heard all about that all through the coverage at the weekend and continue to do so throughout the year. So it's a big anniversary for NASCAR. It's not the first time we've had NASCARs at Le Mans, of course. So they did that back in the 70s. IMSA, of course, part of the NASCAR family, hugely tied up now with the ACO that run Le Mans. There isn't anything else. Okay, maybe the NASCAR bashing from some commentators around the social media sphere is because it's NASCAR. Maybe I know there's lots of love for NASCAR, but there's also a lot of negativity towards it. And there isn't also anything else really in the realms, technology-wise, on the horizon. There's been a hydrogen-powered adapted LMP2 car that's been running. It did a couple of European Le Mans Series races sort of in the invitational class last year, but the technology for that just isn't there yet. Over recent, just before COVID, we had the paraplegic run car at Garage 56, and of course the Delta Wing was the most famous one in the sort of modern sphere before that. So I think it's going to go well. The driver lineup is stellar with Jimmy, Rocky, and JB, all very handy pilots, and I kind of feel like that car may, if it gets a good balance of performance break or whatever, or it matches up well with the GTE cars, it can really give them a good run. I can't wait to see G56 versus Aston Martin down the Mulsanne or Porsche. It's going to be an interesting sight to see. It's a one-off. It doesn't really matter to anybody. Let's just let them have some fun with it, really, is my kind of thoughts on it. Really looking forward to see how it goes.
Yeah, man, I totally agree with you. It's a one-off. It's just for fun. I do understand why some people, have been like, this violates the spirit of Le Mans, because typically with the Garage 56, you want to see like a brand new type of technology, and to everyone's surprise, when they officially unveiled this car, there have been talks when they first announced that NASCAR was going to Le Mans, they were talking about adding a hybrid component to the, and as we know, there's been rumors that NASCAR could potentially switch to a hybrid technology in the future. It's not a matter if, it's just a matter of when hybrid technology is going to be coming to NASCAR. And some people really thought that this would be the first time we'd see a hybrid component in NASCAR. But with this project, they're going to be using the exact same engine. Of the hybrid component, I know that was very surprising to a lot of people. But hey, if the ACO is like, we're still going to let you run anyways, great, because a lot of people are going to be very excited to see a NASCAR stock car in the 24 hours of Le Mans. I think Jimmy Johnson, Mike Rockenfeller, Jensen Button are going to do a really great job with that project, and really looking forward to seeing it on the track. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of American NASCAR fans over here paying attention to the 24 hours of Le Mans specifically for that Garage 56 entry.
I look forward to commentating on that event then. I always do every year, but now it's got a little bit more incentive. Behind the mic says, can't wait to see it at Le Mans, although Jeff Gordon was snubbed a spot on the lineup as well. If Jeff could do 24-hour races, then that'd be so fantastic. But I think he still could. He's not that old to do it. So yeah, Jensen Button is a world champion. I think a little bit more global recognition for NASCAR is what they wanted to see as well. On to our third story and our hot topic of the evening as well. The Repco Supercars Championship is doing some pre-season testing this weekend as well. Something else is doing one as well in Bahrain. But the Supercars are at Sydney Motorsport Park ahead of the Gen 3 cars debut in the 2023 season opening Newcastle 500. And that's on March the 10th to the 12th as well. They look gorgeous, don't they? At the end of the Wednesday test session, Andre Hammond-Gardner as well from Brad Jones Racing set the fastest time in both the morning and afternoon sessions, but his afternoon lap time was the top time among the combined results. It was a great test for Brad Jones Racing, who had all 4 cars in the top 10, with Hammond-Gardner leading the way. Macaulay Jones was 4th, Jack Smith 5th, and Bruce Fullwood as well 6th. Quickest as well. Out of the top 10 fastest cars, 9 were Chevrolet Camaros and only 1 Ford Mustang. And that was Todd Hazelwood from the Blackguard Racing teams, who was 9th fastest. As the teams have tried to get up to speed with the new Gen 3 car, it seems like the Fords are having a lot of trouble compared to the Chevrolets. Now, with most of the Fords at the bottom of the chart, some have started to wonder if the Blue Ovals aren't showing their full potential to keep Chevy guessing until Newcastle. And of course, they're the photo courtesy of Supercars. Now, the Supercars CEO, Shane Howard, said they'll be doing some additional testing next week. And this is their statement. These final tests have been jointly developed between the respective manufacturers, their homologation teams, and Supercars as an agreed pathway to ensure best practice finalization of the specification of both vehicles. The results of these evaluations will help us to provide the best racing product for all our stakeholders and, importantly, our passionate fans. We have been extremely pleased with the way the teams have utilized their flexibility, the testing regime that has been rolled out over recent weeks, with over 10,000 kilometers of shakedown and testing laps compared in the Camaros and the Mustangs. As we approach the biggest change our sport has ever undertaken, it is imperative that we continue to validate the new supercar relative performance, as parity is a cornerstone of the continued success of our sport. These tests will be strictly controlled to ensure all parties are treated fairly and equally in a transparent and collaborative manner, consistency with the accredited homologation process to ensure that we provide the best racing product possible. We take our responsibility to our fans, teams, and all stakeholders very seriously, and therefore believe that this validation of testing will only strengthen our process moving forward. It's a long word to say, the validation of it all as well. It's all very fun as well. But, Kobe, coming to you first, with Ford seemingly being a step behind Chevrolet in the early days of Gen 3 and a disappointing preseason showing, should Ford be concerned entering the 2023 season, or could this be a show of gamesmanship?
Well, Josh, I just want to start off with doing some additional testing. It shows you how serious they are about wanting to get this. Chevy and Ford can equally go compete against one another. I'm sure it wouldn't be fun for a lot of Supercars fans out there, to see Chevrolet dominating Ford, not even having a fighting chance. And we've talked about sandbagging here in passing the shows. Without proper evidence, you can't really accuse anyone of sandbagging. The series have gotten a lot better over the years. I've been able to tell who's sandbagging and who is not. Sandbagging is really is a part of racing. We see it all the time, not wanting to show your full hand. We see it a lot in sports car racing. So it wouldn't necessarily surprise me if Ford didn't want to show its full hand to keep Chevy guessing, as you said, Josh. But right now it seems like the bow tie is really off to a great start, and Ford could be trying to play a game of catch up here. I don't think we should be really concerned about Ford yet, because we haven't seen it, like in official racing conditions. If we get through the first few races of the year and the Fords are, really struggling badly, that's when we should get concerned. But overall, looking forward to the new era of Supercars. Hopefully we'll see a lot more parity, and for the competition in general. I'm sure everyone doesn't want to see Shane Van Gisbergen winning almost every single weekend. I think it'll be really good for Supercars to see more parity and a lot of different race winners as well.
I apologize. This is going to be a long answer to this question. This is the biggest shake-up in this championship since they went to the V8 formula back in '93, when we had the Mustang come in. When was that? 18, 19. There was so much talk about parity. It dominated the whole season. thankfully we got to a point with it, but it was just tedious at times, the chat between Ford and Holden, as it was at the time. Of course, Holden now gone, and Chevrolet in, but let's hope that we can have these cars homologated properly. This test they had yesterday at SMP was the one and only big group test they'll have before we get to Newcastle in a couple of weeks. It started wet, it finished dry. It was one full day, and everyone's got their own programs to run because all the teams are at different points in the development and running of the cars. So that has to play a factor. The weather also. Brad Jones, who his team always comes out of the box swinging with when there's a big rule change. They did that last time and won 3 or 4 races in the first season. There was 10, 11 winners in the first year before the Red Bull Triple Eight team and then Tickford and DJR got their act together, and then it went back to kind of normal. But the first season, it was a little bit wacky. He suggested that Ford have been playing the game at Sydney today. They don't want to play too much of a game because they don't want to get balance of performance as such or parodied out of being at the same level as the Chevrolet cars. So they need to be careful what they're doing with that. So it's going to be interesting. We've had Sydney yesterday, and most of the running has been done at Winton and Queensland Raceway. All 3 of those tracks absolutely mean nothing when we get to Newcastle, which is a street track in a couple of weeks' time. So once we get to the Grand Prix, which is the second round on the schedule, I think, off the top of my head, that's when we're going to see what's what, because obviously the long sweeping corners at Albert Park will really tell us in the aero side who's got it right and who hasn't. Newcastle's going to be interesting. A bit like NASCAR at the start of last year. No one's going to want to smash up the cars in the first couple of races because there's no spares. Brad Jones did mention that the front bumper on those Camaros is 25 grand a piece, and he's got 4 cars to look after. So and Brad Jones over the last couple of years have had a terrible luck with damage repairs. So they'll want to keep their noses, pardon the pun, clean at Newcastle, as will all the teams. So once we get through Newcastle, which is going to be great, we'll really see the balance of power, I think, once we get to the proper, race tracks rather than the street tracks. Okay, Melbourne is a parkland circuit, but it's got proper sweeping corners. So once we get out of Newcastle, hopefully we're going to see where we stand.
Now, before I do throw to you, Matt, again for your grid EPI update, I have actually been emailed the new regulations, and I've been told, so we've got some breaking news about the Formula One technical and sporting regulations ahead of this season as well. These are mainly going to be the sporting rules. These have just been announced as well because they have to be announced the day before testing. So they've left it quite late. But we've got news on enforcing time limits on races. Sprint races are now going to be capped at 1 hour, and if there's a red flag, they can't last more than 1 hour and 30 minutes. In race distances as well, for Grand Prix, should 2 hours elapse from the start signal before the scheduled race distance is completed, the leader will be shown to take the checkered flag, so the 2 hour limit is still engaged. But if there's a red flag, we now have confirmation that the entire procedure can only last 3 hours. So not what we had in Belgium all those years ago of delaying the clock an hour. We will only be there for the Grand Prix for 3 hours, regardless of whether the lights go out or don't. It will be a 3 hour event from there. The new qualifying format that's going to be tested in 2 events this year, where you have to use the hard tyre in Q1, the medium tyre Q2, and the soft tyre Q3. Ooh. That has been renamed to the alternative tyre allocation qualifying. That's going to be unchanged as to the normal running, except for the teams that can only use hard Q1, medium Q2, soft Q3. For the points as well, we've now got that same situation where after Suzuka, where we all thought, oh, Max isn't the world champion because we haven't completed 80% of the race to get full distance. That's changed so that now, if we only complete 52% of the race, that bracket of points will be allocated. You still have to go over 75% now to get full points. So if the race gets red flagged and we're 74% in, the winner will only get 19 points instead of the full 25. If there are less than 2 laps completed, there will be no points, and there will also now be no podium, as there is no official winner of that Grand Prix. So that is now rule 63.4, that there'll be no podium, no official trophy or anything. If you're a fan, then you're going to love this bit, because you're going to get 30 minutes with 6 drivers per weekend in a special fan activity show, the same with team principals. And also, if you have pit lane access before first practice, teams now must present up-to-date cars, which means anything that's on that car for FP1 will be shown to you half an hour before. Sprints for DRS rules have changing. So in sprint races, you can now use DRS after 2 laps, not 3. And that's the same on safety cars. And if you start as well outside your grid position, that will be given now with an instant drive-through penalty. And if the race is red flagged and you have to come into the pit lane, as we know, if you're taking out of the fast lane of the pit lane to have work done, you can't restart the race from the grid. You have to restart it from the pit lane. There's now going to be a defined winter shutdown, 9 consecutive calendar days starting on the 24th of December, and the vote on banning tyre warmers for 2024 has once again been cancelled. So that's just the new updates we've got breaking literally while we're on air of the new regulations, and we'll have more on that during testing coverage as well. So that's a lot of fun. And now, Matt, I'll hand over to you for the latest from Grid EPI.
Yeah, we're going to Bahrain then, and we've just come out of Abu Dhabi for the Asian Le Mans Series, which wrapped up its championship this weekend. Of course, we talked about it last week, the 4-race championship, which is squeezed into 2 weekends, and they had 2 4-hour races at Yas Marina over the weekend. On Saturday, the overall and P2 winners were Malfi Jakobsen and Alexander Coigny. P3 was won by Tony Wells and Matt Bell, and another win on the year already for Lucas Stoltz. He won on Saturday, along with Martin Conrad and Faisal Al Zubair in the GT category for the Falcon Horse BMW team. On Sunday, we had 2 different winners in the prototype class. Stoltz, Conrad and Al Zubair won again in GT, so they won both the races over the weekend at Abu Dhabi. The overall race and P2 winners were Turk, Sally Yolok, Charlie Eastwood and Arçan Guven, another Turkish driver. So on the sort of off the back of all the Turkey earthquakes and whatnot, that's a good little wave of the Turkish flag for those guys. In P3, it was Fabrice Rossell, Javier Lorenas and Francois Heriot who were the winners on Sunday. So that means we have champions to crown, and it was Yolok, Eastwood and Guven with that win in the final race of the season, which snatched the championship for those guys. So congratulations to them. That gets them an automatic entry to Le Mans, which also had the list given out this past week, now that the Asian Le Mans Series has concluded. In LMP3, Fabien Laverne, Jerome de Sadelier and Barishak Gutak, who won at least one, if not both the races off the top of my head now, at Dubai. They are the winners in P3. And Nicky Katzberg, Chandler Hull and Thomas Merrill, who won both the Dubai races in GT, were the champions in the GT category. So briefly, in the very provisional Grid EPI points running, that puts Arçan Guven, Charlie Eastwood and Sally Yolok provisionally on top of the tree on 19 points. But if Mauro Engel finishes first or second this weekend in Kyalami at the Joburg 9 hours, which is the second round of the Intercontinental GT Challenge, a very small field, unfortunately, for the 9-hour race in South Africa. But if Mauro Engel can finish first or second at the weekend, then he will be the new leader of the Grid EPI. So that's our one race coming up in Grid Endurance Performance Index this weekend, is the Johannesburg 9 hours. So then we get a couple of races at St. Petersburg next week, supporting the INDYCAR race for GT World Challenge America's season kickoff. And then we've got a week's break, which I'm quite looking forward to. No EPI races in a couple of weeks. So Johannesburg this weekend and St. Pete next. And we'll bring you the EPI updates in this slot over the next couple of weeks here on Grid Tonight.
Thanks, Matt. And before I start off with the next segment, I'm going to read a comment here from Joe Samniego. Said, wow, so 3-hour max for a race, no matter how many red flags. Seems like a move that is more TV friendly to ABC and ESPN. I agree with you, Joe. It really does seem like something more tailored to TV. So looking at ESPN and all of the different programs they have, that they don't want the potential, the race, spilling over into the window of another program, and then all of a sudden you have to scramble and try to move this program to put the race over here. We're gonna show it on the ESPN app and all of that. So I guess it makes sense, to try to set a max, whether we go back racing or not, go green or not, thinking about Belgium and all of that, try to make sure that they can get the complete show in during that few hours. And next, some more motorsports news from around the world. In the final race of the upcoming 2023 Superstar Racing Experience, to many NASCAR fans, will be in the field. Kenny Wallace will compete in the SRX race on the dirt at Lucas Oil Speedway. It's very fitting considering the fact that Wallace has shifted gears to dirt racing on a permanent basis after he left the stock car racing scene. Wallace said he's always been a fan of SRX because he's good for racing in every way, and he's honored and humbled to be competing alongside world-class drivers. Also, he plans to be smiling from ear to ear at the season finale on Thursday, August 17th, and giving it all he has on and off the track. Graphic courtesy of SRX. While Kelvin van der Linde is preparing to enjoy his home race in South Africa this weekend, the Cape Town E-Prix, a big announcement was made that he'll no longer be an Audi Sport factory driver. During his time as an Audi factory driver, van der Linde's main highlights was winning 2 ADAC GT Masters Championships in 2014 and 2019, plus an overall victory in the 2017 24 Hours of Nürburgring. This development comes as Audi continues to lose many talented drivers. Van der Linde is just the latest departure, joining Rene Rast, Nico Mueller, Dries Van Thor, and Charlie Wirtz. As another high-profile talent leaves Audi, concerns about their future in motorsports will only continue to get louder as Audi prepares to tackle F1 in a few years. Photo courtesy of Formula E. Unfortunately, we have some more disappointing news for Audi, and that is Team Rosberg will not compete in the DTM this year. Team Rosberg has competed in DTM for 24 years, and they filled the Audis for 17 of those years. They won the Drivers' Championship 3 times in 2000 and title twice. Team Rosberg also won a total of 36 DTM races with Audi in the German Touring Car Championship that eventually transitioned to GT3 racing after the brief Class 1 era. The team said they won't race in DTM this year due to worries about economics and not being able to be as competitive as they'd like. The team wants to compete for wins and titles, not just being there for the sake of staying in DTM. Photo courtesy of Team Rosberg. Now, Risi Competizione will enter the GTD Pro class for the upcoming Mobile 112 Hours of season with 2 familiar faces on a new addition to the driver lineup. Ferrari factory drivers Davide Rigone and Daniel Serra will return to the number 62 Ferrari 296 GT3. Joining them is Brazilian Stock Car Pro Series star Gabriel Casagrande. The 28-year-old was the 2021 Brazilian Stock Car champion. He has Formula Renault. Plus, he competed in Porsche Super Cup Brazil and GT Sprint Race Brazil as well. Team principal Giuseppe Risi said the team plans to defend his Michelin Endurance Cup title, which means we'll see the Prancing Horse at Watkins Glen and Road Atlanta later this year. Photo courtesy of Risi Competizione.
And taking a look at our upcoming schedule for this weekend as well. As literally those technical regulations, they're so in-depth reading them as well. That literally is going to be my bedtime reading, by the way, if anybody was interested. And as Joe just pointed out as well, as Kobe mentioned the comment about the 3-hour races, no matter how many red flags, I was just reading through the correct regulation as well. And it is exactly as I said. If we have, say, 3 laps, then a red flag, the race does count. So we will get a podium. But we could literally be in a situation like Singapore where the entire start procedure is delayed. But we start ticking down the clock from the scheduled start time. So no more suspending the start procedure and getting ourselves 3 hours or something or other. Literally, the scheduled start time, we're there for 3 hours and then we're out. So sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. I'm not really sure how I feel on that, but as people with a lot of work to do on weekends, we always clear out 3 hours for Formula One just in case. So, taking a look at our upcoming schedule for this weekend, on Friday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, we have our Women in Motorsports program. On Saturday, noon Eastern, Grid Live pre-race and a full recap of the Cape Town E-Prix and a preview of the final NASCAR Cup Series race on the 2-mile Auto Club Speedway Oval in Fontana. How I love that track. Sunday, Grid Live wrap-up 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series race as well. Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern, we have our Grid Live Encore recapping Xfinity race and more. And on February 24th as well, we're coming up on 1 year since the Russian invasion of Ukraine. If you look in the video description, you can watch the special edition of Grid Tonight we did last year discussing the war and the response from the motorsport community. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you to everyone who subscribed following our Rolex 24 coverage weekend as well and helping us reach our goal of 500 subscribers before the Daytona 500. Now let's see if we can reach our new ambitious goal of 1,000 subscribers before the Indy 500 on May 28th. 93 days to go, I believe, isn't it, Matt? Something like that?
Something like that. Not too long out.
See, so there's still plenty of time to get us there. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notifications and follow all of our social media platforms and visit gridranking.com. Take 5 minutes to invest in Grid Network through Patreon. Join Colin, Mark, Deshelle and Robin and invest each month in the Grid Network. Welcome to our newest Patreon supporter as well, David. We're excited to have you join the amazing group of people who keep us on the air. Once we hit $500 per month, we can begin sending members of our team to the track more consistently for live reports from the track and make more content. The link is in the video description. And if you want to make a one-time donation, click on the Buy Me a Coffee link. We had several of those during the Daytona 500 weekend as well. You get your name on the board and you can invest as much as you want. You can even buy a specific on-air personality a cup of coffee and they'll thank you on the air. For Kobe Lambeth at the podium finish and Matt White from Grid EPI, I'm Joshua Birch. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching us right here on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and check out some of our other videos, including Life on the Grid, where we interview folks from the motorsports industry. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.